Finalize project schedule and mitigating any delays assignment for deliverable number 5, written by CGasner for Rasmussen College. This paper is being submitted on September 8th, 2019 for Ashley Cobb's GEB 3422 CBE Business Project Management course. It was found the refrigerator module is too large for the backpack pouch. Once the constraints were identified, I had to determine how to exploit the system constraint, subordinate everything else to the constraint, elevate system constraint, and determine new system constraint, keeping in mind that there will always be system constraints. When one is uncovered and eliminated, another will pop up somewhere else in the system of project activities. Be aware and prepare for the next possible constraint, and then repeat the steps to uncover the root cause. Strategize for it, build in buffers, schedule other activities, and see what can be put into place to eliminate it. Rasmussen College, 2019. First, I referred to my backup plans and worked to find a strategy while focusing on all the potential delays in the project schedule. I called the company to determine if smaller modules were available and explained our problem. Upon discovering smaller modules were not available, I moved to Plan A. As the project manager, I consulted with the design team to determine if a redesign could be completed to alter the backpack to fit the larger modules. Because of the cost of additional materials and time associated with ordering, this was not an option. Therefore, I resorted to Plan B and contacted my backup vendor and returned the modules from the first vendor. When replacing the modules from the first vendor, I asked for a full refund. Unfortunately, the second vendor was slightly higher priced because of the rush shipping needed to keep the project on track. SuperPACs had another unfortunate unplanned event occur when the subcontractor that was building the radio modules suddenly shut down. Quick decisions needed to be made to ensure this did not cause the project to crash. Fortunately, our contract with this vendor held them financially accountable for any additional costs incurred, but a lawyer was needed to go after them, and we are still awaiting a verdict from the courts. We were able to secure an order with our backup vendor, but incurred an additional cost. Because we had a backup plan and vendor already scouted, we were able to keep the project on schedule, but had to combine activities that could be done at the same time to ensure this delay did not affect the company's commitments to their customer. We also had a planning technique of using buffers when deciding the budget and project schedule. Buffers are added to a project as a way of forecasting. A buffer protects the critical chain path against any delays that affect the critical path of the projects. This can mean allowing for additional time, additional costs, additional people, or additional resources. Rasmussen, 2019. Creating these additional buffers during the planning stage of the project saved us from having to crash the whole project altogether. We also offered overtime opportunities to production staff once new modules were delivered to speed up the production phase, but offered additional pay and time off to employees that volunteered for overtime hours. The radio modules being too large had many implications in the project and affected our budget and schedule negatively. First, we evaluated the additional costs to order additional products for the product redesign and the other extra expenses incurred to alter our original design. It was quickly determined that this was not an option from a cost or time perspective, and as a project manager, I feared this course of action would cause scope creep and dismantle the whole project. The additional expense incurred for staff that had to redesign the backpack, check with other vendors on the cost of supplementary materials. Charges were also borne to rush ship the new refrigerator models and the higher cost of the module from the original vendor. Fortunately, the buffers put in place were adequate, and the budget was able to stay in range even with the additional costs incurred. We also incurred costs to ship the modules back to the original vendor to be refunded. The vendor did refund all our money, but did not reimburse us for the additional costs incurred to ship the products back to them. Furthermore, adverse effects to the schedule also occurred from the time to get the refund from the original vendor to the time to reevaluate the design and the time invested in setting up a new order with rush delivery from the new vendor. Although considering redesigning the backpack could have helped keep the project on track without hurting the project schedule, the workaround, a response to project risk by recognizing an unforeseen threat and creative manufacturing is a viable solution to the problem, was not feasible because of the additional time that would be needed to alter the design, order extra fabric and thread, and readjust the schedule to allow additional time to create bigger pouches for each backpack. Once the idea was deemed not a feasible workaround, I began the process of canceling the order with the vendor, setting up delivery for the modules to be returned to the original vendor. Because SuperPacs had a risk breakdown tool that included this potential issue, we had already determined what steps would be taken to correct the problem and get the project moving forward. Given the critical path and the time contingency created by SuperPacs, we were able to continue the project on schedule even with the time-consuming nature of the issues that arose, testing our scheduling limits. Additional human capital was needed to cancel the order, secure the new order, and attempt to redesign the backpack. Human capital is a key resource for all projects. Additional types of resources include raw materials, financial resources or supplies that are critical to completing the project. Pinto 2019, page 109. Because the potential for issues with vendors has a high probability of happening and significantly impacts the overall project, these types of situations were already planned for. There was additional human capital required, but the backup plan was able to be implemented without affecting the critical path for the project. The team of designers took a couple extra hours when the issue was discovered to determine if a feasible redesign could be implemented. Because the project was still in the prototype phase when the discovery occurred, we were able to quickly execute our backup plan, lowering the amount of human capital lost during the project. Also, because a contingency was put in place to allow for time delays, we were able to keep the amount of human capital required to complete the project while implementing the changes for the vendors radio module within an acceptable scope to keep the project on track. The impact on raw materials was significant when we discovered the fridge module was not going to fit our backpack pouch. We had ordered the first 100 modules in preparation for the U.S. Army approving our prototype and moving to the production phase of the project plan. These were all returned to the vendor once SuperPacs realized a redesign was not feasible. At that point, we had not even one radio module to complete the prototype and had to have the new vendor rush ship the new modules as soon as possible. Thankfully, our new vendors were fabulous to work with and were able to mail the new modules in 24 hours after our order was placed, and shipping took only 3 days. During this time, we were able to prepare other parts of the project that did not require the module to be completed, like setting up the equipment to manufacture the backpacks and stocking all of the raw materials that would be necessary once production began. By overlapping these activities, we were able to lower the impact of not having the module available to complete the prototype when a redesign was considered, and we also took the time to determine the quality of the extra thread and fabric that would be needed to make a larger backpack pouch for the radio module. This took careful planning and mathematically evaluating what would be required to make larger pouches. Another impact on the raw materials needed to produce the product. The subcontractor that was building the radio modules unexpectedly shut down, causing additional costs and human capital needed to keep the project on track. SuperPacs needed to uphold the contract with the customer, and crashing the entire project was not an option. The company was willing to take until the project reached a level of unprofitability determined by the initial planning phases of the project. SuperPacs did have the vendor sign a contract when ordering the radio module, but were not able to get the company to uphold the agreement and were unable to locate any of the management once the doors closed. This required that we hire a lawyer to help us recover the expenses incurred because of the vendors shutting down. The litigation process is time-consuming, and we are still waiting a decision from the courts. Because of this, we were required to use the contingency reserves, a standard method used to mitigate project risks, since the goal of creating contingency funds is to ensure against unforeseen risks. The key to their effective use lies in proactive planning to establish reasonable triggers for their release. Pinto 2019, page 254. The risk breakdown structure considered the possibility of a vendor shutting down and not fulfilling the contract, so a plan had already been created to secure a new vendor quickly. Additional human capital was required to explain the agreement and situation to the lawyer, and significant costs were incurred to fight the vendor. We are confident once the case is closed, we will recover all of the funds lost during the litigation process. If not, the contingency fund that was created did provide enough funds to mitigate the issue without significantly affecting the project budget. The cost of the new module and the expenses to ship them to us quickly was quite large. Additionally, we were forced to implement a short period of overtime in our production department to keep the project on schedule. We did consider hiring additional human capital significantly, but were able to find other processes and efficiencies to allow our employee the option to work overtime only if they wanted. We did not force them to work unless they wanted to, which helped keep the company culture positive, even when this unplanned event occurred. Of course, the staff was paid overtime, and those who volunteered were given 2 additional days of paid time off to ensure when the project was over, they could replenish their energy and prevent burnout on the job. When the subcontractor building the radio module unexpectedly closed, Super PACs had to quickly implement the backup plan to not throw the project off schedule. The radio modules were not available at all, creating a significant impact on the raw materials needed to complete the project. Deliverables. The buffers created to offset the potential issues with vendors created some of the additional time required to secure an order for a new vendor. The project manager also offered employees in the production department the opportunity for overtime to ensure the project timeline would not be derailed from the lack of raw materials to complete the radio module. The employees were paid overtime and also given additional paid time off once the project was completed to help offset the stress of working overtime and prevent burnout. Crashing and fast tracking often cause more problems, resulting in larger schedules. Cobb 2019. Because of this, it was essential the project manager built in enough time using the buffer in the project timeline to allow the schedule to recover from the setback by the radio module vendor closing its doors. Overtime is not usually recommended, as fast tracking the project can create more problems, but the project manager was able to find ways to develop value to the employees willing to volunteer for the overtime hours. Once the new vendor was selected, the raw material issue was crashed because it was no longer an issue in the project plan. The refrigerator module was ordered from a different vendor, and the original order was canceled. This created additional costs and raw materials to determine if the backpack could be redesigned for the larger module delivered. Extra human capital was needed to take the time to cancel the original order and set up a new contract with the backup vendor. Additional costs incurred in raw materials required to determine if the backpack could be redesigned for the larger module delivered. Extra human capital was needed to take the time to cancel the original order and set up a new contractor with the backup vendor. All of these activities were planned for by using buffers in the project schedule when determining the critical path. When we discovered the radio module vendor had closed, we had to work quickly to secure a new vendor. Thankfully, a backup plan had already been created for this potential situation, and we knew exactly what costs were going to be incurred to secure a new order. Super PACs had to sue the original vendor for failing to comply with the contract established when the order was purchased. Again, we were able to use the contingency reserves to pay for the lawyer fees in hopes of recovering the funds lost from the original vendor. Extra human capital was needed, and adjustments to the schedule had to be made to accommodate the spare time required to produce the backpacks once the new modules were delivered. We offered overtime to employees for a short time to ensure the production process stayed on track and did not crash the entire project. As a project manager, I created a SWOT analysis and considered the strengths, weaknesses, threats, and opportunities Super PACs would face through the project. The risks were planned for before they occurred, and the project was able to be completed within the project schedule and budget laid out when the project was implemented. In hindsight, when the refrigerator model is ordered, we should have confirmed the original specifications and sizes of the module before shipment, and this could have avoided the additional costs incurred to return the module to the original vendor. Preparing contracts that did not us accountable for failure of a subcontractor to deliver the product was a valuable safeguard to reduce the impact of a vendor shutting down. Unfortunately, the additional cost to hire a lawyer to recover the lost funds was necessary and forced us to use our contingency reserves to pay litigation fees, but are still hopeful the funds will be improved when the lawsuit is settled. References: Rasmussen College 2019, Module 5 Project Scheduling, retrieved September 8, 2019 from Rasmussen College website, https://rasmussen.mycourselabbs.com/labs/page/view.php ID equals 164903 and force view equals 1. Rasmussen College 2019 Module 5 Project Scheduling, retrieved September 8th from Rasmussen College website, https://rasmussen.mycourselabbs.com/labs/page/view.php ID equals 164903 and force view equals 1. Pinto J.K. 2019, Achieving Competitive Advantage Project Management 5th Edition, retrieved from https://pinto.j.k.2019, Pinto.jk 2019, Achieving Competitive Advantage Project Management 5th Edition, retrieved from https://ambassador.vitalsource.com/pound/6/2 Pinto JK 2019, Achieving Competitive Advantage Project Management 5th Edition, retrieved from https://ambassador.vitalsource.com/pound/6/2 Cobb A. Presenter 2019 August Business Project Management Week 5 Lecture 1 schedule presented at Live Lecture Rasmussen College online Minnesota.